Welcome to our fourth Friday from the Archives presentation. I'm Penny Cliff, Education Specialist here at the Archives. Today you will enjoy a new collection at the Georgia Archives, the Downtown Development Design Assistance Materials, including the Georgia Downtown Main Street Program by Georgia Archives archivist Amanda Mros. Now, Amanda has been an archivist at the Georgia Archives for 16 years. She received history degrees from Berry College, a BA, and the University of West Georgia, an MA, with a public history certificate from the University of West Georgia. Amanda worked at a series of house museums and with the Benjamin Mandeville Long photograph collection located at the University of West Georgia's Special Collections and available online through the Digital Library of Georgia. These experiences further developed Amanda's love of architecture, which fits neatly into this presentation about downtown development's Main Street projects. Please type in comments at the end of Amanda's presentation. Now, this recording will be uploaded to our YouTube channel, Georgia Archives. Just plug in Georgia Archives on YouTube and you should get to it. Please tell your friends if they weren't able to attend today, as they do have this option. Welcome, Amanda.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm very excited about this presentation. It's a really good presentation. All right, I'm going to get everybody started. Let me double check everything. All right, is everything coming up? Mm-hmm. Okay, so I want everyone to know from the beginning, each of the images I use, I will have the citation on the slide somewhere. On this one, it's the bottom left-hand corner, and it will tell you where everything came from. Most of the maps came from our online collection in the virtual vault, and you can reach that through our website, georgiaarchives.org. Okay, so a little bit press history about towns and cities in Georgia. I'm going to talk about a little bit about the reason for their placement, transportation, economic reasons, location. A lot of the time is all of the above. And the three main types of cities will be the ones water courses, railroad lines, squares, or a combination of two, usually just two of the things. Other things to consider, of course, are the older frontier towns had to defend the city and its citizens from attacks, but not just from Native Americans, but the Spanish in Florida and the French colonies to the west. So these are some of the reasons that the towns were placed where they were. There's also quite a number of cities in Georgia where the capital city is, the county seat was relocated, whether because the county changing boundaries or they wanted to centralize it so all the citizens had equal access to the courthouse itself. This is an example of a town or city on a river. As you can see, this is Rome, Georgia, up in Floyd County. And the map on the right shows the development 1871. You can see how they're using the rivers to travel and provide economic transportation and economic development. To the left is the 1895 map of Rome, which shows the growth around the city and expanding outward. The river and expanding outward. This is a map of a railroad town. It's hard to see on the map on the left-hand side of the 1869, but between those four buildings you have roads and railroads running through the middle. So the right-hand side, the modern map, shows you where the railroad is running down the center of the city. The last type is the squares that developed away from waterways and away from railroads. And this is a good example of Carrollton. Originally, Carrollton was supposed to be located closer to one of the rivers, and it was going to be called Troopville. But at the last minute, they moved it so that it would be centralized. The county seat would be centralized in the county. And there are county seat, you can find some of the changes of the county seats. I have an example of 1831 law, pages 67 and 68, where they changed the Baker County seat because it was within 1 mile of the Lee County line, and people from all over Baker County didn't have equal access to the county seat, so they moved it. Let's see, and it says, but an act of justice to those who are citizens of the county, that all should partake equally of the advantages and this text was illegible, afforded by the location of the county seat, the seat of public justice in the county, inasmuch as they will all equally bear the expenses thereof. A lot of the larger cities, I found information on Savannah, Charleston, Boston, put in fire codes. So in the late 1800s, a lot of the smaller cities started passing fire codes, and that many government buildings, and especially in downtown areas that were close to government buildings and shops, they were required to build buildings out of non-combustible materials, so brick or stone versus timber construction. I have an example of 1889 Carrollton passed a building code for buildings on the square. And originally, Carrollton Square was the courthouse in the middle, and then buildings around the outside of it. But they passed the building code, so the first block of streets, which would include the square, plus the blocks around the square, had to be built of non-combustible materials. Buildings were grandfathered in, and the last store on the square itself wasn't rebuilt with brick until 1919. So of course it depended on the cost of the construction, things like that. There's also the 1845 code and 1861 that spoke of fireproof safes to store documents and ledgers in the courthouses. And they also, then in 1845, they discussed the construction of the building as stone, brick, or timber. But in later, say, the city of Eatonton established in 1878, the code said it had to build or cause to be built any building, and it could only be brick or stone buildings with a tin or iron roof. So that saved a lot of fires. As we all know, a lot of records have been lost due to courthouse fires. So this is a preventative measure, not on top of the safe. So the reason you're here today is the Main Street program, which began in 1980, and they started with 5 local communities in Georgia. And now the program assists over 100 communities statewide. The Main Street program is under the Department of Community Affairs, which was created in 1977, and it administers the Georgia Main Street program and Better Hometown programs. The Office of Downtown Development under the Department of Community Affairs coordinates Main Street and Better Hometown programs, and this is their website. This is the first time we've gotten anything from them on the design phase. I know we have some grant applications and files and things, but these are the actual plans. So these are really great, and there are all sorts of plans. The hopes for how this will help local communities, revitalizing downtown areas, promoting tourism, preserving historic buildings throughout the state, local employment. It's a great example of private and public partnerships, as well as local, state, and federal partnerships. The plans include information about newer construction and businesses, and how the facade of newer businesses can be or should be blended in with the current or original construction of the businesses surrounding it. So they put in a lot of work. As you can see from here, it's not just a picture of the town, but you have the buildings, the types of lamps, the parking situation, a little bit of everything. And it's more than just the small towns. Many people think that the small town development program is only about the squares or local cities, local broad streets, main streets, if you will. But towns even like Atlanta, where the city has grown exponentially, have passed the original layout of the town, have examples in this collection. And this was one of Pascal's restaurant and hotel in Atlanta as an example. The arrangement of these records, they're under record group 66-9-36. You'll see that number a few other places, so don't worry about it. They're arranged alphabetically by town or city name, and some of the oversized items have been rehoused by size. So we're trying to do that for all of them, but right now we've only finished a few of them. This is what you'll see in our finding aid if you type in those numbers under search. So you have a description of the scope and contents of the collection, the dates, and a little history of the program. On the right-hand side, you'll see the collections, basically the box list. And then the next slide shows you close up. If you click the little arrow on the box list, it'll give you, a contents listing. So say you were interested in that first Ackworth, Main Street, Ackworth, established 2000. The information, if you click on that content or folder listing, on the left-hand side, you'll see some numbers at the top that will reiterate the name of the file, and then the box location and the folder call number. And that's what you would bring into us if you want to see it. On the right-hand side, the collection or organization, I just blew it up a little because you can also see additional Ackworth files in that box that you may be interested in. The different types of things included in this collection are documents, of course, maps, architectural renderings or plans, examples of paint samples, signs, ideas for plants and trees, landscape designs, sign designs, photographs and negatives and slides. A lot of these include a page similar to this where you'll see a photograph of the original building and an artist rendering of what they would like to do. The bottom of each plan usually gives you a little information about the name of the business, the owner of the business, which is great if you're doing architectural history, and who designed this particular rendering. The materials used include everything from pencils, pen, ink drawings, and computer-generated drawings. Okay, this is another picture of rendering in the Pascal's file, and you can see what they were hoping to do with the building. This is one of my favorite. It's one of the ones with the square in the middle, and the courthouse is surrounded by businesses and other government buildings. Other cities, Carrollton is an example of this, where they removed the courthouse from the center and put the streets, basically a four-way street in the middle of the square. And they've moved the courthouse off the square to some buildings behind it. In other places, they've removed the courthouse or still have the courthouse, but they have green space around it instead of parking. This is an example from a Brunswick file about some history that you may or may not know about the city. It included local history. This This talks about a plant that they were building for one, and the plant was 30 days from completion when the war ended, so the plant was never finished. But it gives you a little information about it, and the Tourist Bureau, I believe, is the one that created this bureau. This is one from Cuthbert. This shows two designs for the same building. If you look at it, though, the buildings are a little different. So it could be that one's the front side and one's the back side, or it could be two different locations. Although it does say on the plans that there's the same location. So I'm thinking it's just a front or back. And you can see the file does not always note which plan or rendering is the final version used. So you may want to take note of that. As you can see, they do look different. So it's probably the same side, different sides of the same building. This is an old mule barn in Cuthbert. They were discussing turning into a restaurant. So I tried to, there are multiple photographs in all of these collections that include different types of transportation like cars or trains. And if you're interested in that, that could be also a good study, not just of buildings, but of transportation during the time that these photographs were created. So just like the architecture in some of these is really good. This is a rail fan platform. They were discussing building in Jessup. Some plans included the buildings that were not original to the Salner City. It's possible that this may have, they may be using a lot of places recycled old train platforms or depots, and it's possible they use those things. See, these are other things, and many plans include information down to the drainage level and the sidewalk elevation. Everything that you would need to include to build things like these things. This is a Jonesboro, which is a railway town. As you can see on the right-hand side of this slide, each of these usually have this form. It gives you a lot of good detailed information. This one wasn't filled out all the way. I tried to use one that was kind of blank, but it will include the property owner and information, the location of the building itself. So if you want to do deed research or anything like that, these are great. These are a great way to start before you go to the deed office. Then we have this one of Lincolnton. Is a nice presentation. This is the city maintenance shed. So I just like the colors in this one. But you can see the different types of, this is not a computer rendering, so it's a different type of, and then this is the Lincolnton Journal, the local newspaper. This is a plan for that. And it's a little different plan than the ones that were shown before. But it is a little bit of everything. I hope that gives you all an idea of what's in this collection. I know this is a very short presentation, but I didn't want to show you all everything because this is exciting. And it definitely, y'all should definitely come see it if you're interested in architecture. All right, I will stop sharing and let me know if y'all have any questions or anything, or if I need to go back to a specific slide if you're interested in seeing a certain slide again.
Okay, we have some questions, Amanda.
All right.
Okay.
Speak up, is that one?
Yeah. No. Let's see. You went over one of your favorite collections. What are some of the other favorite items in the collection?
In this collection?
Yes.
The photographs are great. The photographs are great, but I really like the artist rendering and the designs on this particular one.
Oh, We have a question here. What are the most common records that family historians ask to see? What they would ask to see in this collection?
You could find business owners' names, and a lot of times there are histories of the property. So before you go to the deed office, you could maybe find a history. I don't know if it would be the entire history, but a lot of the properties do have a lot of history in them, and who lived there, who bought them, who built them, and who owns them today. So that would be good.
Can you go over again how somebody would find a finding aid for this collection?
Okay, yes, that would be on our website, georgiaarchives.org. I will go back to that page real quick.
Sure.
There we go. Okay. Archives.org, and then there is a tab. If you're on a desktop or laptop, it's on the right-hand side. If you're on a phone, it might be at the bottom, but it's a blue-colored tab like these, and it's called Finding Aids. If you type in the number 066.09.036, that will get you to this collection. And you can search the boxes on the right-hand side here. I have a close-up of, and if you, let me go back one here. So each of these is a box listing, and they're in alphabetical order, except for the oversized things that are removed. So you might have Ackworth folders in several different boxes. So you want to look through the whole list. Then each box you can click on and see the information on the different addresses that we have information on. Some of them, like this one, is just a broad collection or a folder of everything about that town. So
how many Main Street towns are in this collection approximately?
That I'm not sure. Let's see, I should have looked that up. Let's look that up real quick. One thing. I'm pretty sure it's over 100.
Well, that's pretty good. It's over 100. This is great.
Because the collection itself is 42 cubic feet. So it's about 42 boxes of information.
Wow. Are some of the city files larger than others?
Yes, there are ones that are larger. Let's see. Let me go ahead and share this screen with you. So this is the Finding Aid screen here. And it really depends on the city and who is involved, because a lot of times, like a lot of things, if you have a lot of local support, then there may be more files on that city.
Could you click on Atlanta?
Mm-hmm.
Because I would think that would be one.
Atlanta, we didn't have that much on.
Really? Which one did you have a lot on? It depends.
Yes, it depends. I really didn't count them all when we were processing them. Let's see.
Is that it?
There's quite a few. So Atlanta just had a couple of folders.
That's interesting.
The larger towns seem to have fewer, whereas the smaller towns did have a lot of local support. So there were a lot of plans put in. So if you're interested in smaller towns, then this is the place to go.
I have another question.
Okay.
All right. Does the collection include Main Street projects that were implemented and those that were not, that were just ideas? Is it just the ones that they actually worked on? Did you see that? Or
unfortunately, I didn't read all of the files when we were processing them, but you can, these are just the working files. So I think there are some notations of which plans were used and which were not. And this collection, they went through 2018, so there's the community, the downtown development is still an active program. So if you have interest in a particular town that you don't see here or a particular building, you can contact them to see what you want to do or what they're working on in dealing with that particular building.
Yeah. If somebody wanted to come in and look at the collection, but they wanted to make sure that there was information in the collection, particularly if they were driving, away, could they contact Ask an Archivist and ask to see, well, how many files is, in this particular town?
We have all the files listed here,
okay,
so you wouldn't have to write in. You're welcome to write in, and we can have it pre-pulled for you when you come in to visit. And that way you save a little time. We are open Tuesdays through Saturdays, 9 to 12, and then 1 to 4. And we stop pulling original records at 3:30. So say if you wanted to come in tomorrow and look at this collection, I would suggest putting in your order a day early and give us right in to Ask an Archivist, and we can have the files pulled for you. Even though some of these have particular cities, sometimes you can find detailed town histories in some of these that are just for certain addresses, if you will. Yes.
So you could say maybe some of the researchers would be like town historians.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
That's the great part about this collection is locals worked with the state, worked with federal government or federal entities to make this happen. And that collaboration is a great thing because it collected information from every different level. I mean, these aren't like a lot of the grant files you'll see are just the paper grant files. This collection has photographs, plans, everything that you can really see the history come alive. And it's not just an audit report, basically, for how they spent the money on the plans. So
there are a lot of different types of documents in there then?
Yes, yes, a lot of different types of documents. Yes.
Okay, in processing this collection, what have your favorite types of documents been?
The plans, I believe the plans have been my favorite. I'll show you the plan. I think I've shown everyone in the building. This one is the most colorful one, and I like it just because it not only shows the buildings, it shows you the environment around the buildings. It has the street names, so if street names have changed over the years, highway names, you have all that information. You even have which way it's facing, north, south, east, or west.
Well, I don't think we have any more questions. Let me see, no more questions right now. Thank you,
okay.
Amanda.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Amanda. Be sure to come to the archives to look through this very interesting collection. There is nothing like coming in and seeing what's in the collection. You never know what you'll find. So we really appreciate this. Thank you. And ours are on our website. Okay, Amanda told you our hours. For October, let me share with you what's coming up in October. We have 2 free events, but you will have to register like you registered for this one. Our Lunch and Learn on Friday, October the 8th is Georgia's Land Lotteries and Native Americans, presented by our very own collections manager, Dr. Henry Miller. And we also have Archives and Genealogy Day. It's on Saturday, October the 9th. Go to our website at www.georgiaarchives.org to get the links to register. Thank you so much for joining us.